Hi, I'm Steve McGill of HurdlesFirst.com and the Hurdle Magazine, and I'm here for edition number 2 of Hurdle Talks. Last week I talked about my battle with aplastic anemia when I was in high school and how that affected my hurdling life and my life as a whole. Today I'm going to get a little more hurdle specific here and talk about the all-time greats. On the old version of our website, one of the features was a top 10 list for each for the 110 hurdles, 400 hurdles men's, 400 hurdles women's. Never got around to the 100 hurdles for women. But anyway, the 110 hurdles list was one that created stood a lot of interest and feedback and stuff. And so I wanted to talk about where I stand now in regards to who I think are the best 110 hurdlers of all time. And by the end of this video, I want to state who I think is the greatest 110 hurdler ever. Okay. Now, obviously, this is something I can do for fun. I don't like to take it too seriously, in the sense that I feel that my opinion is a definitive statement on it. That's why top 10 lists are always difficult to pin down. Because everybody has their own opinions. Largely, people will tend to go with the era that they most identify with. You know, if you think of basketball, for example, if you were around in the 50s and 60s or what have you, you would definitely say that Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell were the best players ever. If you were around in the 80s and that was your youth, you'll say Magic Johnson or Larry Bird. If you're around the 90s, then definitely Michael Jordan. And if you're a young kid now, you're going to probably say LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, somebody like that is the best ever. So everyone's very era protective, and I'm no different. I was inspired to hurdle by watching Nolan Nehemiah, so he's definitely very high on my list of favorite hurdlers. During my own hurdling career throughout high school and college, Greg Foster was the man, and so I was a devoted follower of all of his races. Roger Kingdom as well, and then in my coaching career, Alan Johnson and Lou Zhang were the two big ones that I've always looked upon as the best. So let me first start by going through the list of notables who can claim a stake in the greatest ever debate. Let's start back in the day and move up to the here and now. I would probably say that Harrison Dillard is probably the first one you could make an argument for. He was a 1952 Olympic champion, and he came close in 48 as well. He was the first, hurdler to really put the hurdles on the map as a premier event. Next, you'd probably say Lee Calhoun, the 1956 and 1960 Olympic champion, took the event very, very far, and he was coached by the great Wilbur Ross. After that, I would say Willie Davenport, and Davenport was a 68 gold medalist, 76 bronze medalist, and he had a long career spanning, I think, 64 all the way to 76. In the time where there really was no money in track. So to last 12 years in a sport with no money in it like he did is pretty remarkable. Then I would say Rodney Milburn, the 1972 Olympic champion, and also broke the world record several times. Milburn did. And he was the first hurdler to make the race a really a sprint hurdle event in his career. And he had a good long career too. He left for a while because of try to go pro. That didn't work out, and he wasn't allowed to compete when he came back. But ultimately did come back around 79 or 80 and finished about another good 3 years before he retired. Then you got Guy Drew, the Frenchman, as the Americans called him, who won the 1976 Olympics. Foster, who I mentioned earlier, had a long career, 77 to 92, something like that. And won several world championships. Ronaldo, who I mentioned, came around right around the same time as Foster, and they had a big rivalry. Then Kingdom in the 80s with 2 Olympic medals and a world record. He was the first one to break Ronaldo's world record of 12:93. Colin Jackson, the British hurdler, who won several world championships. 93, 99, I believe he won a world championship. He also was a world record holder for a time. Alan Johnson, the American, 95, 97, 2000, and three world champion. I think 2001. He won 4 world championships, and he won 1996 gold medal. I think he still owns the most sub-13s ever run as well. And Lu Zhang, who I also mentioned earlier, from China, 2004 Olympic champion, 2007 world champion, and also set the world record of 1288, I believe it was, back in 2006. Then you got Robles, Dayron Robles of Cuba, who was a world record holder 1287, and also won gold medal in 1988. 1988, that was Kingdom, in 2008, and Robles was a beast in 2008. He was a monster that year. Then you can make an argument for Aries merit in modern day because his 2012 was so incredible, and he blasted the world record with that 1280, and he had the Olympic gold medal. And I think at this point you could probably make a case for David Oliver. Just won the world championships, and he's also a sub 1290 guy. There's only 4. There's him, Aries, Robles, and Lou. So only 4 guys have gone under 1290, and he's one of them. So Oliver does deserve some mention when talking about the greatest hurdlers ever. All right. Of that list, I personally would narrow it down to these following hurdlers. Let me talk about them in more detail. Milburn. Rodney Milburn was dominant in the hurdles. He took the hurdles to another level. He was in that era between the transition between hand time and automatic timing, and so he ran like 13:24 as a world record, which would have been 13 flat hand times. And his 1971, like I said before, he went undefeated that year, and he was really in a class by himself for a good stretch of his career. And the thing about Milburn was he was so strong and so powerful. He was a monster. He was intimidating, even though he was a very quiet, humble guy off the track. On the track, he was a beast. And that 72 Olympic Championship race, he won by a good margin, even though he kind of had some issues with balance over the last hurdle or so. He dominated that race. And so I think the beginning of the modern era of hurdling is Rodney Milburn. The next person I'll mention would be Ronaldo Nehemiah. Nehemiah, because even though he had no Olympic gold medals, we can give him a pass on that because there's pretty much a 90+% chance he would have won gold medal in 1980 if not for the boycott. He was on another level at that time. And for me, what sets Nehemiah apart is that he moved the event so far forward in such a short period of time. From 1978 to 1981, he broke the world record 3 times. Before the first time, the world record was 13:21, and that was Casañas of Cuba. So we went from 13:21 to 13:16, from 13:16 to 13 flat, from 13 flat to 12:93. That's incredible. To take the world record that far, from 13:21 all the way to 12:93, one person doing that in the span of three and a half years is astounding. That would be like somebody now going from, Aries broke it from 1287 to 1280. So if Aries were to go all the way down to, let's say, 1260 would be the equivalent of what Nehemiah did. So that to me is on a whole nother level of accomplishment. I think that Alan Johnson, as I said in my 2008 listing, is always going to be at or near the very top because of the 5 major championships, 4 world championships, and 1 Olympic medal, all the sub-13s. And you got to remember too that in Johnson's era, there were always monster competitors for him to go against. Earlier in his career, there was Kingdom, there was Mark Creer, there was Colin Jackson. All these guys were sub-13 guys. Then later on, you have Garcia of Cuba, who also was a gold medalist in 2000. Garcia was a monster hurdler in that short span of time that he was healthy. And then you had later in his career Lu Zhang and Robles, and he Johnson competed against these guys and beat all these guys at one point or another throughout his career. Even when he was old man, I remember 2006 World Athletics final when he beat Robles and Zhang in that race. So Alan Johnson, over the longest period of time, probably had the most accomplishments of any hurdler ever. And for me personally, I will put Lou at that very top list, because Lou, to me, is the greatest technician in hurdling history. He is a technical master. When athletes of mine, or I get emails from people asking me about different technical things, I always suggest they look at video of Lou Zhang and Alan Johnson. You want to know how your lead leg's supposed to look? Watch some Lou, watch some Alan. If you want to know how his trailer's supposed to look, watch some Lou, watch some Alan. Whatever you want to learn about how to hurdle, watch some Lou and watch some Alan, and you're going to find some answers. And unfortunately, with Lou, injuries kind of sabotaged his career, so he's not really quite at that level for that reason. So breaking it down there, you can also make arguments for everybody. Foster's career was long enough. He had no Olympic gold medals. It was long enough, and he was pretty much number one ranked in the world for a good 10 years in a row. Maybe Kingdom in there in a couple years broke it up, but you can definitely make an argument for Foster. You can definitely make an argument for Kingdom. 2 gold medals, a world record. Phenomenal things that these guys did. But for me personally, and this is very subjective, okay, I gotta go with Ronaldo as the greatest hurdler ever. If you're taking away all the lists of things that you would measure it by, and just on gut feeling, if you saw all the best hurdlers ever lined up against each other, all in their prime at the same time, who you got? I got Ronaldo. I think that Ronaldo was a monster competitor. That 1293 that he ran was not his best race technically, and he'll tell you that himself. But he was in beast mode, if you will. He was in refuse to lose mode, and he got it done. And that to me is a quality that all these great hurdlers have, But for Ronaldo, maybe I am biased because it was watching him when I was 13, 14 years old that made me say, wow, I want to learn how to do that, So there is a bias in favor of Nehemiah for sure. But still, I do have some objectivity here. And I would say that the way, he's a modern hurdler, if you will. His time that he ran in 1981 would have won the world championships that just happened in this past August. 1293 is still a monster world-leading type of time to run. How many years after the fact? About 30 plus years later, he would still be one of the very best hurdlers in the world. What other event can you say that athletes from 1981's times would be at the very top of the list in 2013? I can't think of anybody except, Edwin Moses in the 400 hurdles, whose times would still be competitive or at the very top. Edwin and Ronaldo are the only ones. The 100 meters, 200 times have progressed to where the times they were running in the 80s wouldn't match up. But Ronaldo's 1293 would still be, if it were 2013, the best time in the world for the year. So to be that far ahead of your time in an event that is as demanding as the Winston Hurlers, to me, is a phenomenal thing that I don't think many people really have fathomed the magnitude of, if you will. Okay, so yeah, man, I'm going with Ronaldo. If you don't like it, then put a comment in the video, and we can hash it out. All right, it's a fun thing to do. All right, so that's all I got for today. That's Hurdle Talk number 2, and I hope you enjoyed it. And then if you do have any comments, go ahead and put them down. I'm sure I'll respond. So thanks a lot, and next week we'll have Hurdle Talk number 3. Don't know what it's going to be yet, so keep your eyes and ears open. Thanks a lot.